Nigeria is going through its worst unemployment crisis in a decade, and that's according to the World Bank. It goes ahead to state that the unemployment rate in the country rose fivefold in the last 10 years. The World Bank says significant increase from 6.4% in 2010 to 33.3% at the end of 2020 affected Nigerian youth in their quest to find gainful employment opportunities. In March, the National Bureau of Statistics reported that Nigeria's unemployment rate climbed to 33.3% in the fourth quarter of 2020, from 27.1% recorded in the second quarter of 2020. The NBS had said a total of 23.18 million persons in Nigeria either did nothing or worked for less than 20 hours a week, making them unemployed during the fourth quarter of 2020. Joining us now to discuss this is a business development analyst, Gbemisola Alonge. Good to have you on the morning show, Gbemisola.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Share your perspectives with us on the recent report by the World Bank, which really is quite alarming. The figures are staggering, and this speaks to the fear of many Nigerians that, there are no jobs. It's about jobs, 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 no jobs. And on the other hand, people are now beginning to migrate, as we can see from the reports, that, people are looking elsewhere, to survive. How dire is this situation from your own assessment?
Like you said, like the report says, it's actually very, very, very bad. It's the worst that we've had in the last 10 years. And even worse is the fact that more people are joining the labor force. I remember in a conversation about unemployment in Africa, Dr. Gbemisola, the economic advisor to the presidency, had reported that 19 million people joined the workforce between 2016 and 2019, and only 3.5 million jobs were created. So it starts from the population distribution of Nigeria. So we have a very young population, so between the ages of 15 or 0 to 35 really. And then we have the working population who are mostly like 15 to 64, but amongst all of those, we have people that between the ages of 15 to 34 make up 60% of that population. These are people that have just graduated from university and want to get jobs, are able to get jobs, and they are unable to, there are no jobs for them. So it's really bad. But then, like the report said, while we have a young population, there's also the opportunities in other parts of the world. The opportunities in different countries that have aging populations. People who, majority of their population are either retiring or graduate or approaching the retirement age. So that creates an opportunity for us. If we can provide employment for people in Nigeria, there's an opportunity for them to go outside and, get employment. And this report also recorded that there's been a significant rise in the migration of Nigerians out of Nigeria to other parts of the world, especially the UK and North America. But then the issue, however, is the fact that a lot more people, what's even more dire is the fact that people are applying for asylum and forgotten the word.
Refugee status right here in Nigeria, is that what you mean?
No, even refugees abroad.
Abroad as well.
Exactly.
Asylum and refugees, yeah.
Exactly. So they're applying for asylum and refugees and to be refugees in other countries. So that reflects what's going on in the country. So it's not that we're not providing jobs, it's also that we're not making the economy safe enough for people to stay and look for jobs. And these people are going to neighboring countries like Cameroon and Nigeria to look for, to apply for asylum. And that just reflects that, Nigeria is not only unable to provide jobs, but it's also not secure for people. And it doesn't get worse than that, really.
It is a shame. Gbemisola, I know that you'd written an article on the poverty trap here in Nigeria, and you said that oftentimes employees will be well aware of the fact that they aren't treated as well as they could be treated, and perhaps though they should look for greener pastures, they don't. Do you think that a situation like this makes that poverty trap even stronger? Because even if you know that you aren't being valued as well as you should be, perhaps because you don't have an alternative or because you're too afraid to look for one, that poverty trap continues to strengthen. Is that what you think?
Exactly. So you have situations where people spend hours on a job. First things, let's give an example of Lagos. So you leave home by like 5:30 a.m., get to work, and then work all the way to like 6 or 7 p.m., and then get home in traffic, get home by like 10 p.m. Some people get home by 12 midnight. There's really no time and no strength to look for jobs. So people who already, have jobs, they feel like there's really no, people are losing jobs. So first, they feel privileged to have jobs, even if those jobs are not, even if they're overpaid, underpaid and overworked. And then they have a situation where, there's no chance, no opportunity for them to look for other jobs. And when you're not, when your skills are not being used well, and you're more or less unemployed, right? Because by the time you want to look for other jobs that would, pay better or give you better working hours or working arrangements, you don't have the skills to get those jobs. So they're just stuck in there. They have no choice. And then they have to keep working in those places. And then we've been in 2 recessions in the last 5 years. So companies have closed down. Like, organizations cannot keep their labor anymore. So they keep shutting down and they keep laying people off, because that's the first thing. When you're unable to meet your current demand, or you don't have enough revenue coming in, first thing you do is, shed some extra weight. And sometimes it's actually people that have to be let off for businesses to stay afloat and for them to continue to survive.
You're right, because what we hear these days is that everybody is right-sizing. Exactly. What that basically means is that they're letting people go, which is not good for the job market. But I like the part where you said that we're a mobile country. People, if we do not have enough opportunities here, people will continue to travel abroad, and that's key because the remittances of workers, of Nigerians in the diaspora to Nigeria is about 5% of our GDP. That contributes something. But what my worry, which I do not think that this report by the World Bank has captured, and which sadly many analysts do not seem to address, is the effect of population growth, on the job market. We worry about lack of jobs, that we're not, having enough. But then nobody is saying anything since, I believe, the Babangida years of 4 kids to a family, about the fact that we are, the population is booming, astronomically. Yes, big countries like China will say, they will even legislate to say that a couple can have more than, one. The last time we had anything like that, again, as I said, was during Babangida era. Isn't it about time that we returned, to that sort of sensitizing people, especially people in the working class and within the poverty level, that huge, big families cannot assist you and can't help, in the sort of country that we are trying to build. Yes, a huge 200 million population, will have its own advantages. But then in terms of per capita income, etc., it's really working against the country. Should we return to that era of family planning, etc., so that we can moderate, how people are, for want of a better word, procreating?
Okay, so I'll start by explaining what the perceived benefits of having a large family in Nigeria is. So many parents see their children as some sort of assets or, security for them, so collateral. So once you have, the more kids you have, the more people that can work for you, the more people that can hawk for you. And this is for families that live in rural areas especially. So the more kids they have, the more they can send them out. What they fail to realize, however, is that the more kids you have, the less you're able to train them to get significant returns from them. And I hate to use people in this investments way, but then, I mean, if you can train a child to university level and the child gets a proper job, they're able to, fend for you more than a child that you don't even train at all and just goes around wandering and, is unable to get proper education. And education doesn't really have to be academic education. It may just be empowerment. So the impact of the population growth, continuous population growth, like you said, is low growth for the economy. I mean, we just cannot sustain this growing economy. And we have a situation where, I wrote an article about this population situation, and we have a situation where, because we don't have a large retiring or aging population, we don't have people who have worked and have saved or have some sort of pension stored up for the future. So what happens is that the older people have to depend on the working population, and then we have a large young dependent population. People between the ages of 0 to 15 years old who depend on this small working population. So that means that the working population cannot earn as much, and because they can't earn as much, they can't save as much. And what savings does for the economy is that once I save my money in a bank, the bank has more money to give people who need loans to expand their businesses and grow. And we need more of those businesses to grow and, for the economy to grow, right? So continuous population growth prevents us from, having more businesses and people, the economy growing. But then what we need to do, apart from, sensitizing people about family planning and all of that, is actually educate people. Like, we need to educate people because in economics, there is proven that the more literate people are, the lower the fertility rates. And by fertility rates, I don't mean like how fertile you are, but how many kids you actually give birth to. So once we can educate people, once we can ensure that, and the thing with China is that they did not just legislate or say, oh, you can only have 2 kids or 1 kid. They actually ensured that they provided employment for the females and for the males. And with women going to work more, they had less time to sit down at home and have kids, right? So that's what happens when there's enough employment opportunity and there's enough education. So what education does is that it allows people to, create more businesses that can employ more people, or just create businesses and, prepare them for jobs. And then it also ensures that people, do not have time to, give birth to kids. And the more educated parents are, the more educated their children tend to be. So once you educate one generation, you're sure that, they know the value of education and they would pass that on. So apart from sensitizing people, we need to actually improve our human capital. We need to improve human capital development. And this is not only sometimes it comes in form of incentivizing parents to send their kids to school. Paying, and I remember there was a state in the north that was actually paying parents for sending their female kids to school. So things like that, welfare programs like that, in addition to the family planning, is what we need now. So not just say, oh, don't have just 4 kids or have just 2 kids, and then what? So I have 2 kids, they are of no use to me, or they can give me little or nothing, and then what then happens? So we need to do more than family planning and population control.
Understood. In addition to people having multiple children, in the hopes that translates into success and financial freedom in the future, there are also people who make the plunge to go outside of the country and adopt and look for other countries for better economic opportunities. When we look at that, especially since at the very beginning of this conversation, we talked about the amount of people migrating out of Nigeria to North America, to mainland Europe, usually that should translate into more money kind of flooding back into Nigeria through remittances from the diaspora. Back in 2019, that leveled around 5% of Nigeria's GDP. How do you see those numbers in regards to the World Bank's report this time?
Because of COVID-19, not a lot of people were earning as much because, most countries had shut down, imposed very strict lockdown regulations. So that prevented or that lowered our remittances. But apart from that, sending money to Nigeria is now harder than before. And that's because the CBN has put in place some regulations that just increase the cost of sending money. And even with the dollar for naira initiative, the cost of sending money is still high. So we have regulations like, I think last year the CBN restricted the use of international money transfer organizations, which before would allow you send money from America or England to Nigeria and then the person in Nigeria would get the money in naira. So what we have now is that if you're sending money to someone in Nigeria, the person either has to come and get the dollars or pounds or whatever the currency in cash, and then the person would also have to then try and convert it, or the person has to have like a domiciliary account. So those restrictions just prevent people from, and I mean the CBN has good reason for putting these restrictions in place, because the more demand for foreign currency, the higher the exchange rate, and they're trying to unify the exchange rate. So, but then it just prevents or makes it harder to send money, and that just restricts or reduces the remittances that would get from abroad. But then more importantly is just the COVID-19 restrictions and how many businesses abroad or people abroad had to shut down and were unable to send money back home.
All right, maybe what aspects of this report do you think that government should begin to look at in order to mitigate what appears to be a very difficult situation? What we have, or what we seem to have, is not a productive economy. And we know what the key issues are. Power is a major issue. Worship centers are virtually taking over, factories, warehouses, etc. Even in the area of agri, for me, it's more than asking people to return to the farms. And I love to use the example of an article in this day that my friend wrote a while ago, Simon Kolawale, using the example of Ghana and cocoa. Ghana in 2016 or 2017, exported cocoa to Belgium, made $2 billion from that. Guess what Belgium did with it? Of course, they turned the cocoa, into your chocolates, etc., making $35 billion. So Ghana will think that they've made good money from cocoa, but they've not made anything. So what Ghana will need to do, will be to also develop the capacity, which will include power, which will include, factories, etc., to turn cocoa into all these things, not just to export. So Ghana at least featured. Nigeria is not even there. In those days in the Southwest, cocoa was the mainstay, which Obafemi Awolowo used in building, making all the development that he did. So my point again is, what areas should government be looking at to mitigate this? Because frankly speaking, we don't want the situation to get worse.
Okay, I'm glad you actually mentioned agriculture. So I write a lot about agriculture and Steers business. So first things first, trying to develop the agricultural sector is beyond giving people money for 3 months and asking them to return the money in terms of harvest. That's not how to do it, honestly. And that's because, so first things first is develop the infrastructure. Moving goods, moving food from the north to the south is a huge burden. It's really bad. The transportation is a struggle. There's the situation of multiple informal bribes that transporters have to pay. Sometime earlier in the year, the Association of Food Marketers, I think that's what they're called, food marketers and cattle sellers, went on strike because they were just tired of the continuous informal bribes or informal taxes that they had to pay, bringing food to the south. So we have issues that just prevent or make cost of doing business really, really expensive. So that's the first thing. Try and reduce the cost of doing business, and then as much as possible, automate or improve the output of farmers. Farmers depend highly on rains. When the rains come, they're too much, so the farmers suffer floods. When they don't come, farmers suffer from drought. So it's just continuous inefficiencies in the sector. And apart from that, one thing that I feel like is happening in Nigeria is that a lot of the developments in terms of sectors is being left to the federal government. Like the federal government cannot do everything, right? Mm-hmm. So one thing that Lagos State is doing now, I think they just released their agricultural policy, is that they're looking to improve food security in Lagos State. And one of the ways they're doing that is by collaborating with other states to farm in those states and then bring those outputs to Lagos. And then they're creating like agricultural hubs where, you know, they produce and process foods. So those are the kind of things that we need. Like we need processors, we need the federal government cannot do everything. So states should take on these processing activities, you know, start processing your own food, start providing food easily for people. And then apart from that, educate your people. And one thing so educate your people, improve healthcare, improve education. And I always say that education is not necessarily about primary to university education, it's about impacting people. So one form of education that we have seen that has, you know, been able to yield profits is the apprenticeship education system. I'd call that loosely the apprenticeship education system, especially in the East, where people are empowered and after some time they can stand on their own and start businesses and improve businesses. This form of system is actually used in other countries as well. So apart from theoretical education, we should also improve those kind of employment and educational systems. And then we also need to look for ways that we can actually, this was what this report was driving at, actually formalize the migration of people from Nigeria abroad. Make it easier for people to actually leave, because the opportunities for them to go out in other countries where, you know, those countries are in need of a population, and then, you know, they can return money back to Nigeria or even come back with skills that they can use to develop people in Nigeria. Finally, I think that one other thing that we need to do is invest in high-impact organizations or high-impact companies. And, I mean, those companies are loosely called startups. So we have startups which the kind of support they need is beyond just giving someone 1 million naira at 5% interest rates. These companies require very, very, very large capital, and the returns that they have is able to generate employment. So we have the case of like Google and Facebook that are highly regarded in America, for instance, that not only because of the kind of revenue and the kind of growth that they experience, but also how many people they employ. So those high impact organizations, we've seen some of them in Nigeria. An example is Paystack that was acquired last year for $200 million. So companies like that need support, not just from the government, not the government coming and saying, oh, we're ready to support you, but from venture capitalist companies in Nigeria that can provide funds, can provide support, and can help these businesses get the kind of money that they need, the kind of technical expertise that they need, so that they can grow and they can employ more people. Another company in Nigeria that took on employment and education and empowerment is Andela, for instance. So empowering software developers, a lot of them, and then providing them with jobs, not only in Nigeria but abroad, that they can use to generate income for themselves, especially in foreign currency that they can remit back to Nigeria.
Understood. Thank you for that answer, Gbemi. I know that you talked about investment needing to show itself more and how much of an effect that can have in Nigeria. But what about foreign investment? How do you think foreign investors look at Nigeria, especially, as we're talking to you now, there's a strap across the screen which has a quote from the World Bank saying this is the worst unemployment in Nigeria for 10 years. How do you think that makes foreign investors look at Nigeria? Are they looking at them with a bit more attraction, thinking there is opportunity, obviously, with this workforce? Or do you think that it disillusions people and makes people look at Nigeria in a less attractive way?
First thing I would say is that with unemployment, there's a lower market. And by market, I mean people that are able to afford goods and services, not just not just having population of 200 million people. There's actually an article in on the Stairs Business website. Title of the article is "Show Me the Money," and from that, there are different maps that just show the average income of Nigerians across different states in Nigeria. And that map alone shows you that a lot of Nigerians actually cannot afford businesses. So an example is ShopRite. ShopRite exited Nigeria last year, and initially, before coming to Nigeria, their plan was to set up 200 stores across Nigeria. That was, clearly, they were unable to achieve that. I'm sure they were even shocked by the time they came into Nigeria, and this was a long time ago. I can't remember what year they came in, but then at the time, Nigeria was much better than it is today. So today, with an unemployment crisis, you have a lower market, a market that cannot afford goods and services that you're willing to provide. But apart from that, we also have, ease of doing business cost of doing business rather is very high in Nigeria, not just for Nigerian businesses, but also foreign businesses that are looking to set up in Nigeria. So the fact that businesses in Nigeria have to shut down and have to let people go, and they're unable to expand and get more people employed, is also a struggle for, foreign organizations would see that and see that Nigeria is not a very stable place. Then we have the issue of insecurity. So with a high unemployment rate, you have more people looking to crime because they have to feed. Like, people need to eat, people need a place to stay, they need to survive. So crime rates would obviously increase, and then insecurity would increase. But then apart from that, one other thing that has currently gotten a bit worse in Nigeria is just regulation. Nigeria has become the regulation has just become very stringent and very suffocating for businesses to survive. It's hard for a business to come and set up when you're unsure of what the regulators will come up with.
Gbemisola, it pains me to have to interrupt you there. We've had a great conversation with you these last 30 minutes.